Hi, privacy and security friends. How did you do over the holidays at convincing your relatives to change their privacy and security behavior? I don't know about you, but I find it a struggle. I have over 20 close relatives, including first cousins. And in my 13 years as a privacy professional, only one of them has ever asked me for privacy advice, and exactly zero have taken my privacy or security advice, which is why I was shocked, surprised, offended by 23andMe's recent claim about a data breach, saying it was the fault of the users themselves. Largely, I guess, because they had not managed to convince the relatives that they did not know to use better passwords. It seems very strange. If you haven't been following the whole situation, let me just break it down for you. First, let's talk about what 23andMe has actually said. First, they're claiming unauthorized actors manage to access certain user accounts in instances where users recycle their own login credentials. Okay, so basically what this means is you use a password like I love you on one site, and then you go use it on 23andMe, and then on another site that's not 23andMe, it gets breached. And the fact that your username and your password, I love you, is out there on the world, people can reuse this. Bad actors can reuse this. This is called credential stuffing. And so again, 23andMe is saying users negligently recycled and failed to update their passwords following the past privacy security incidents, which are unrelated to 23andMe. So let's look at the numbers. About 14,000 23andMe users were included in the set of people who had bad passwords or were involved in credential stuffing. However, the data breach has resulted in 1.4 million users leaking their family tree and 5.5 million with other forms of stolen data. So 23andMe, please explain to me how the 14,000 users with bad passwords resulted in 5.5 million users having their data breached. Well, let's talk about it. Apparently, I'm not a 23andMe user, but apparently there's this feature called DNA relatives that you can opt into, in which you can share your information with close relatives. So other close relatives can log in and get information about you. I was unable to find the exact, like what that means exactly for a close relative. Is it just first cousins, second cousins, fourth cousins? I did find an example where 23andMe was saying like a user has over 1,200 relatives. So by opting into this feature, you're letting the closest 1,000 people who you don't know get access to your, get some information about you. So like, let's be empathetic. It could be adoptees. It could be people who want more information about their relatives who they don't know. Like, that's the whole point. Yeah, this is why they're using 23andMe anyway. So like, let's not blame the users for opting in. Furthermore, there's a number of design decisions that 23andMe should have made. And I'm going to go over them in detail because I think this is important for any product that it has a user-to-user sharing feature. So any feature that lets one of your users share information with other users. And the reason I'm going through these patterns is because I've seen them time and again, and they can really expose your users and create a privacy breach. So first of all, user-to-user sharing needs to be designed with privacy in mind. But that means it's up to 23andMe, it's up to your company to design that feature well. So the opt-in should not use deceptive patterns. What is a deceptive pattern? Well, it's pretty much any kind of user interface or nudge that tries to convince users to opt into this when maybe it wouldn't be their first choice. So let's take a very old example. This is not like a super high quality image. It's from a paper that we wrote about 10 years ago about privacy nudges. But I want you to see, like, even fuzzily, this is an option to make your profile public on Pandora. And the keep public option is bright blue, it's on the right, and the make private is small, it's on the left, it's not as catchy to the eye. So this is an example of like a gentle nudge to try and keep people, make sure they keep their profile page public. I don't know what 23andMe's opt-in look like. I do not know if they use deceptive patterns or not, but it's something that like we see over and over again. So this is just a pattern, don't do that. What else? When you have user-to-user sharing, as a software designer or provider, you need to make sure that users can revoke, limit, and monitor access to their own data. So what that means is like once they opt into it, can they later opt out? Once they have shared the link, the calendar, the DNA relative, whatever, can they go back and change it so they're not sharing it anymore or not sharing it with those specific people? This is a feature I see that's left out way too often. Can you limit any of the data? I don't know if you could go through and choose on this DNA relatives feature, like which information specifically would be shared, your name, your location. Like location is one of the things that was breached. Like, why do you need to share your location? I don't know. Maybe you don't want to share your location. Also, can you monitor access? Like, can you see that, in the past year, 5 people have tried to request this information, and then one day it's 5,000, there might be a problem. Or can you get a sense of like how many people are looking at your data that you've shared? Like these are like classic features, user experience elements of user-to-user sharing that all products should include. Also, user data needs some of the classic security protections. So 23andMe should be responsible for detecting and monitoring abuse. So one example is IP anomaly detection. If one person is always logging in from a certain IP or group of IPs, and then it's completely different one day, that rings alarm bells. That's why like sometimes your credit card is declined when you're traveling or something. So like 23andMe could have also done this for the DNA relative feature. Also monitor login attempts. Are you suddenly seeing like a huge change, anomalies, and who's logging in where? And also rate limit user-to-user sharing. So 14,000 people making 5.5 million requests within probably a few months. Like, how was 23andMe not that should have been an anomaly. Like, how did 23andMe not detect this? Like, so basically the idea is for these kinds of breaches, the attacker is going to write some kind of script and automatically go in and collect it. So the frequency of their requests, the speed of their requests is going to look a lot different than if it's just a user like a valid user who's logging in and clicking through by hand. And so like these are all sort of like known things, like known security protections. So I'm not convinced that 23andMe really has a lot of excuses for not doing this. I don't actually know if they've done it or not, but I think their attempt to come out swinging and blame it on the user is a sign that they have not fully taken stock of their own responsibility. So just to summarize, if you are someone that's building a user-to-user sharing product or feature, then please make sure that you don't have deceptive patterns for trying to nudge or convince people to opt into sharing. Allow users to revoke, limit, or monitor access, apply rate limiting, and monitor for fraud and abuse. I'm Rebecca Balibacco of privacyengineer.ch. Happy to talk more if you have any questions. Thanks. Bye.